Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the 1999-2000 Topps basketball sets. Topps Chrome, and, Topps Tip-Off as well. And Topps was starting to rethink how they were distributing cards in an interesting way, because in 1998 they began to have an early release of some of their Topps cards, but not in basketball. So for basketball card collectors, they were continuing to collect basketball cards where Topps was right at the beginning of the card release. So the way that they did it was they did not include rookies in their initial card set, their Series 1. Instead, they had draft pick redemption cards. Well, now they were starting to rethink that. And so this set is a pretty interesting set. There's actually quite a bit going on with it. I'll do my best to make sure everything's clear. But one thing is for sure about this card, and it is that it's a bold card. I mean, that orange just absolutely glows on this card. Surprisingly, it's not obnoxious. It actually has kind of a fancy quality to it. It's just dark enough, has just enough red in it that it works really well with gold foil on the card, and then also the deep team color on each card also works to make this card come across in a way that could easily be a nightmare. I mean, I look at this card and all I can think is, boy, that could so easily have been 1991 Fleer. Thankfully, it was not. But it's interesting that they chose such a bold color because, obviously orange works perfectly for basketball. But wow, this again could have gone haywire in a heartbeat, and it didn't. It came through really well. Now, they once again did release the entire set with Topps Chrome as well. And with the Topps Chrome cards, these are done exactly the same way as the regular cards in the set. But that's actually a thing to note, because Topps had been playing around with their Chrome cards, where in the previous years they had either not released some of the cards in Topps Chrome and then added different kinds of cards, or they would take the checklist and change the checklist. In this case, every single card in the entire card set is also released with Topps Chrome as well as a Chrome refractor. So it's basically straightforward, but actually the set's anything but straightforward in terms of how it's built. But before I get into what I mean by that, I want to first off mention about there was a third release of these cards, which was NBA Tip-Off. Now, NBA Tip-Off was something they'd already started in other sports, like I'd alluded to. And what it is it is a partial parallel set that is released in its own packs, and it was designed to be an early release. Now, the cards have a brown border instead of orange, and they have silver foil instead of gold. But the idea that they had was that these cards were going to be released before Topps cards were, and so that gave collectors kind of a sneak peek of the set that was coming out. That's the idea behind it. And so these cards, again, not all of the cards are replicated in here, but we are going to be getting back to Topps Tip-Off in quite a while. But it is a partial parallel set. But by parallel set, I really shouldn't use that term because it is a parallel release. There is a parallel card to the regular Topps cards in the regular Topps packs, which is almost a parallel of the entire set, and it's also not entirely a parallel. It's the MVP redemption cards, or contest cards. Basically, just about all the cards in the set were also made with a gold foil logo that said MVP, and then on the back it has contest rules. And the idea of the contest I'm going to explain in a little bit. Every single veteran and every single rookie in the set has one of these parallels. Every single NBA card, and that we'll get to in a second. But at any rate, that's the way that the card set was released, the way that it was crafted. Now, the card set is still 220 cards, like they'd been doing in the previous years. 110 veterans in Series 1, 110 veterans in Series 2. But the set is not 220 cards completely, because they also added draft pick rookies for the first round, almost entirely the first round. These cards have a white border, and then they have an orange inner border. But these cards are also SP cards. So when I say that there are 220 veteran cards, I mean there are 220 normal release cards, 110 Series 1, 110 Series 2. The rookie cards are SP cards that are harder to get. Some of them are in Series 1 and some of them are Series 2. And this is where I get into the distinction of how this set was released, because, like I said, Topps used to have Series 1 pretty much at the beginning of the series, and they had redemption cards for draft picks in packs, so they didn't have to wait until the draft had happened to release their first series. Now, because they had tip-off, they could have that as the first set of cards that collectors could collect, and then the first series of Topps could come, just after the draft. And so that meant that they tacked these SP cards in terms of they allocated a certain number of numbers in the set, and then they cranked out a bunch of cards, stuffed them in really quickly, got them out the door. So the SP cards are only kind of a part of the set. The Beckett likes to refer to the set and then the set without SPs. This is the way that it works. But these cards do fit into, after basically the first rookies start at card number 111 and then head out. So Series 2 starts a little bit later on than normal. At any rate, Series 1, Series 2 both have draft pick rookies, but they also have, in Series 2, U.S. basketball team cards. So the Olympics were coming up, and Topps was going to be making the cards for the USA team. So they included them in basically every single release. For the Topps release, these are the last 10 cards in the set. They have the initial 10 players chosen for the team for this, so you don't have the entire team, you just have the initial 10, all with really good portraits. Again, a white border and gold foil, wonderful flag for the team logo. These cards look great. They are also SP cards. And now we get back to the MVP cards. So the MVP redemption cards, or contest cards, however you want to refer to them, those cards did not include, or basically there were parallels of all the cards except the Dream Team cards, for good reason, as we're going to get into in a second. So again, all of the rookies, all of the veterans, MVP cards, not the Team USA cards. And that was the set. And even the Team USA cards also came obviously came with the refractors. But they didn't have checklists in the set. And this was something that was very new to Topps, because Topps have been doing checklists in their sets for basketball, I believe every single year that they made basketball cards, they had checklists included in the card set. Now, they didn't always follow through in a normal fashion with them, because like in 1992, the Topps Gold, they replaced the checklist, and they did something similar in 1997 with their Chrome. And basically, they like to play around with the checklist and do different things. Well, in 1999, they decided to just get away from including checklists in the card set, and instead included them as a standalone group of cards, as basically just pack filler. These cards are not hard to come by, but they are standalone cards. They're not a part of the card set. I do have to note, though, that they do have one additional card for the set that was not part of the set, but it was also not inserts. It was box toppers. So in Series 1 boxes, they had an oversized card. There are 8 different players in this set, so the card numbers are obviously slightly different, but 8 different cards in the set that are basically just blow-ups of the regular cards in the set. So they did also do that. I believe this was the only year they did that in basketball, though. Okay, so that was the set. But I've been talking about the MVP cards, and now it's time to talk about that. So the idea of the MVP cards is basically in the NBA, there's a player of the week every single year. So any player who is player of the week over the course of the season, their MVP cards, the redemption cards in the set, the parallels, those could be sent in to get a special MVP card set as a prize. And so that meant that there were, can't even remember how many weeks. At any rate, the set that you got was not just the player that you sent in, it was a set of all of the players of the week. And so that meant that all the redemption cards themselves, there were about 100 copies of each of them. So, and you would expect that roughly half of those got redeemed for the winners. So probably about 40 or so. But that doesn't mean that there were 40 copies of the redemption cards, because every single one of the cards that was sent in, you got all of the cards back in the redemption set. So that means the redemption set is dramatically more common than the MVP cards. But at any rate, they still don't come up too often. And the MVP cards are, well, they're interesting. They are a mirror chrome finish, but they have a whole design in there. So the design doesn't come through too well. I'd love to see what these cards look like without the mirror chrome finish. But at any rate, that's the way those cards came. Now, we can now move on to inserts. And inserts is really the key to what Topps was doing here, because Topps realized, look, it's 110 or so cards in Series 1 and Series 2, 10 packs and you finished the set. They were selling inserts, and there are a lot of inserts in here, a lot of which are also released with Topps Chrome as well. The first insert to talk about is autographs. Now, Topps was new to this whole autograph thing, so this was, I believe, the second year they did it. And for this card, they have a whole blurred background. They have a basketball printed over that. And thankfully, at the bottom of the card, they fade to white, so there's a place where you can actually see the autograph. I wish that there was a bigger area for the autograph. It would have looked a little bit better. But at any rate, this is the way that their autographs look. Then they have a card set called All Matrix. And All Matrix is an etched mirror card, like they'd started doing in the previous year. Now, you might notice that they also have a chrome version of it, which is a parallel of the whole set, but it's called All Etch instead of All Matrix. This is the only time that they did a change to the name of the insert set between the two releases. Now, thankfully, we can see what in the world the pattern is on the All Matrix card by looking at the All Etch card. But all of these cards, basically there are three versions of each one. There is the initial one in Topps, there is the Topps Chrome, and there's the Topps Chrome Refractor. They also had a set called Highlight Reels. And for Highlight Reels, okay, see, as you can see, they did keep the name the same, which makes perfect sense here because it's all about these film strips in the design, and I really don't know what the rest of the design is. But again, this is a card set where the etched mirror card is in Topps, and then the Topps Chrome has the Chrome and the Refractor. And it's good to be able to differentiate between Topps and Topps Chrome, because in Topps packs, they like to release finest-like cards, which is what Topps Chrome is. So their Topps Impact cards are not Topps Chrome cards. These are released in Topps. I'm not going to say that there aren't any Impact cards that are in Topps Chrome. We're going to get to that in a minute. But Topps Impact is a Topps card. It's a Topps release. And the way you can tell is that the name Topps is on the card as opposed to Topps Chrome, which is on all the cards that come out of Topps Chrome packs. So these are Topps cards, and they do all have refractors. And this is a card set that is built in three sections. So they have a first half, or a first third, a middle third, and a last third. The first third is rookies, and it is called Initial Impact. And then the second section is called Present Impact. These are young stars who are proving themselves. And the last section is Lasting Impact, which looks at veterans who have been holding down the fort for quite a few years. They also did a set called Own the Game. Now, I got to note something about Own the Game. There have been contest cards called Own the Game that have also existed. These are not contest cards. These are just straightforward cards in the set. And you can see that they're using the raindrop effect that they'd used in the previous year. Pretty cool looking cards. Then they have a card set called Patriarchs. And this is another card that uses the etched mirror surface. But this is a card that does not have a Topps Chrome parallel. So thankfully the stars are really obvious, so we can see what the design is for these cards. But this is one of the cards in regular Topps packs. And then there's also a card set called Prodigy. I mean, after all, you got Patriarchs, you got Prodigy. Prodigy goes back to having a finest style card that is inserted into regular Topps packs. These are not Topps Chrome, they are Topps. They also come with the refractor parallel, and every single one of these cards is die cut. And then they have Picture Perfect. Now, Picture Perfect is it's a puzzle card. It's technically a game card, but it's really just, it is there is something that they changed on the card, and they want you to figure out what changed on the card. And it's pretty subtle. I mean, they do give you a hint, but still, like in the case here with Keith Van Horn, what they changed was the color of the key. So the game is a Nets home game. You got to know that it's a Nets home game, and then you notice that the key is yellow, which would imply that it's the Lakers home court. It's that kind of thing. Those are the kinds of tweaks that they make. So you really got to work to try to figure out what in the world is different on these cards. Then they have a card set called Record Breakers, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It's players who had a very good statistical season or career, and the cards have silver foil on them. Now, I got to note, over in football, they did this set where they also had a gold parallel. In basketball, they didn't bother to do a gold parallel. It's just the silver. So I wish that they'd done the gold parallel, but it's still nice that we got these cards, all the same. And then we got Season Best. Now, Season's Best is a tradition they've been doing for many years. And following along with the tradition, all of the cards come in one of six. Basically, there's 6 groupings of cards, and they all have different designs based upon the nature of the players in that grouping. I like to read those off. I'm not going to do that here because they have the etched mirror surface, but they also have printing on it too, which means only 2 of these am I able to read. The other ones, I really don't know what the text is. It's pretty annoying. But a note about this, in previous years, the Season's Best had been released in Topps as well as in Topps Chrome. For this year, they did not release a Topps Chrome parallel. It's just the cards in Topps. Those are the only ones. Now, they did have the raindrop effect for one of their inserts, so they may as well use it some more. And they did that with Team Topps. Now, Team Topps is a card set that looks at players from players grouped into different divisions. And it is, it's basically top players, and they all have the effect, and that's kind of cool. But they also used it for 21st century. So here we were looking at the players who are going to be the stars of the 21st century. These cards are more stripped down, so the effect is a lot more dominant on the card. It works a little bit better, although the card is a little bit more boring. But still, that brings to a close all they had in Topps proper. We do still have a little bit more to talk about with Topps Chrome, though, because they did do some inserts that were dedicated just to that. Starting with NBA All-Stars. Now, these cards, for all 3 of these sets, they have a regular, and then they also do have the refractor parallel, which I do have to note because in 1998, some of the sets didn't have the refractor parallels. In this case, all of these do have refractor parallels. The All-Star cards, black around the outside, then they have some color on the inside. Then they also have instant impact, and so here we're going back to impact. So Topps Impact, which was released in Topps sets, it has the 3 themes, and it looks like it's Topps Chrome. Instant Impact, this is actually a Topps Chrome set. It also has the refractor parallel, but it's a separate set. There's no correlation between the 2 sets. And then Keepers is the last set that they created for Topps Chrome. Obviously here we're looking at young stars. The team color on these cards looks great. And that brings to a close Topps and Topps Chrome. But we do need to go back to Topps Tip-Off for a second, because with Topps Tip-Off, basically it was intended to be cheap packs that were just kind of cranked out as a preview set. That was the concept behind it. But they did want to do something kind of fun. And so they created a game, and the game was called Double Double. Now, Double Double, these cards have dates on them. And so if a player pulls off a Double Double within the range of dates, then you could send the card in for a contest where you could get like an autographed jersey, stuff like that. You didn't get cards back, so this is kind of the end of the road for us with that. But each player has, I believe, 3 different versions of the card with different dates. So it is another card that you can collect, and I wish that Beckett took the time to actually break down the whole checklist of all these cards. I think they did it with one of the season opener cards, or one of the season opener sets in football. But otherwise, they didn't bother with checklists of these cards. I don't know why, because they're still great cards to collect. But, well, that brings it to a close, finally. So you can see that 1999, Topps was starting to get kind of carried away. There's a lot going on here and a lot of pieces that don't fully align. So it takes a bit of work to go through it. And I hope that I've been able to be clear through all of this. So if you do have any questions, please hit me up in the comments below. I'll be quick to answer everything that I know from down there. Hopefully it came through pretty clearly. We'll see. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I do urge you to do so. And I have already done everything for Topps basketball up to this point. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, be sure to check those out and see how Topps evolved over time. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you very much for watching.